At the end of this busy week, capped off with today's Supreme Court decisions, let's turn now to the analysis of Brooks and Capehart. That is New York Times columnist David Brooks and Jonathan Capehart, associate editor for The Washington Post. And we should say that you are both joining us tonight from the Aspen Ideas Festival in Colorado. Your beautiful backgrounds make me wish I was there with you guys. It's great to see you, but let's jump right in to those Supreme Court decisions today. Big wins for the president, one on allowing religious parents to opt their kids out of LGBTQ learning and storybooks in school. The other severely limiting lower courts' ability to issue nationwide injunctions. We heard President Trump very happily thank the justices who ruled in his favor earlier today. Take a listen.
I want to thank Justice Barrett, who wrote the opinion brilliantly, as well as Chief Justice Roberts, and Justices Alito, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Thomas. Great people.
Jonathan, kick us off here. What's your reaction to those rulings? What do you take away from that?
Well, on the injunction ruling, I reached out to a former senior official in a Democratic administration just to get their take on it. And the response back was mixed bag. And it's a mixed bag because on the one hand, Democratic presidents and Republican presidents never liked it when a lower court judge reached in and, stop them from doing something with a nationwide injunction. I'm thinking particularly of President Biden and, say, student loan debt forgiveness. But when it comes to what the court did in terms of birthright citizenship, the ruling has stayed, the injunction is still in place for 30 days. But after 30 days, we're going to be in a situation where children born in the 28 states that weren't a party to this ruling could be born, not be citizens in those states. The chaos that the Supreme Court has unleashed on the country with this ruling, I just think is unfathomable. When it comes to the LGBT school ruling, for that to come out the day after the 10th anniversary of the Obergefell ruling, which legalized same-sex marriage, made it a constitutional right, is really, it's painful. It's also speaks to the court's willingness to, be a party to erasing a whole community. But then on the other side, flip side, in the same Supreme Court made it possible or said that it is okay for the Affordable Care Act to cover treatments such as PrEP and HIV medication. So that is, a good thing for the LGBTQ community.
David, what's your take on that? A mixed bag as well, and in particular, this idea that we're moving to like a patchwork of potential citizenship here based on that injunction ruling. What's your view?
Yeah, I think the patchwork argument is the best argument that people in favor of the national injunction have, that where the Constitution is going to be interpreted differently in different regions. That doesn't seem to make sense. Nonetheless, I hate to say it, I think the court decided rightly on the national injunctions. I remember back in the Biden administration, there was a judge in Amarillo, Texas, who decided to ban an abortion pill. And I thought it was just crazy that a single judge can set national policy on a fraud issue that should be settled by democracy. And Democrats were rightly outraged. Now, I am all in favor of judges stopping what the Trump administration is doing, but you got to be consistent for both parties. And I think if people want to challenge what the Trump administration is doing, or any administration, they can file class action lawsuits. But we should not have this shopping where liberals go to a Northern California liberal judge, conservatives go to an Amarillo, Texas judge, and they can set national policy through one person. That just doesn't seem to make sense. I agree with Jonathan on the birthright citizenship. The case they were dealing with wasn't specifically about the question of birthright citizenship, but the Supreme Court, they can do whatever they want. And they should have expanded the question and settled the birthright citizenship right away. It's written right there in the 14th Amendment. There should be no objection about this. And they left open the realm of chaos.
I do want to ask you both, too, about the big news from Iran this week, because the president was asked about that earlier this morning as well. And this is a week in which we saw both President Trump and the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, continue to insist that Iran's entire nuclear program has been completely destroyed, obliterated as a result of those U.S. strikes. That's even as the results of a preliminary intelligence assessment that was leaked said that some of the highly enriched uranium could have been moved, could still be safe. Experts have told us that as well. Senators got their first intelligence briefing as well. This is what Democrat Senator Chris Murphy had to say after that briefing.
I just do not think the president was telling the truth when he said this program was obliterated. There's certainly damage done to the program, but there's still significant remaining capability.
David, even Republican Senator Mike Rounds said to us yesterday that there's no question there's still uranium there. Why the insistence from the president that this was completely destroyed, the program was completely destroyed?
It's not. It's hyperbolic to say it's completely destroyed, but we have evidence from a report from David Albright's think tank, leading scholar on this, that the enriching capability is basically gone. We have the IAEA, the International Agency, International Atomic Energy, whatever that thing is. Bush could never say those initials either, and they say it's completely destroyed. And so I think it's severely degraded. And the main feature is Iran has to know that anytime Israel and the U.S. want to go back, and if Iran decides they want to reconstitute their nuclear program, the U.S. and Israel can take care of it. And the bigger story here is over the last 10 months, Israel in particular has degraded Hamas, degraded Hezbollah. They've made the Iranian regime look weak and decrepit, and they've established deterrence. And that 10-month stretch, and I detest Bibi Netanyahu, but he's doing a good job of making the Middle East safer over the last 10 months.
It's the IAEA, for those of you following along at home. And Jonathan, what about you? What's your take on this?
You know, it's in situations like this when, at least I would hope and expect that a president of the United States would be small c conservative in the way they talk about a mission so consequential and so big. To step out there within hours to say that the program had been obliterated when, you know, we didn't even know what had really happened, I think was irresponsible. And that, you know, the leaked intelligence briefing on the initial assessment is one view, but as we have seen over time, that initial assessment will probably change as time goes on. And so I just think it would be best for everyone involved to take a wait and see attitude. But we're talking about President Trump. I'm, you know, wishing against all the wishes. He'll never do that.
I got to ask you both, too, about Tuesday night's events in New York City, the Democratic mayoral primary contest the entire country was paying attention to when Zohran Mamdani, who was a little-known state assemblyman, went on to beat the former New York governor, Andrew Cuomo. Mamdani is 33 years old. He's a self-described Democratic socialist. And his win, we should point out, has really fueled a hateful response from some on the right. There's a major MAGA voice named Charlie Kirk who posted this. 24 years ago, a group of Muslims killed 2,753 people on 9/11. Now a Muslim socialist is on pace to run New York City. Tennessee Congressman Andy Ogles actually called for Mamdani, who was born in Uganda as a naturalized U.S. citizen, to be denaturalized and deported. Jonathan, what does Mamdani's win tell us about Democrats and their message, if anything, and what does the response tell us about Republicans and theirs?
Well, the response, I'll start with the Republican response. It's shameful, it's hateful, it's disgusting. It also tells me that Republicans are deathly afraid of their prospects in the 2026 midterm elections, especially if they're going after a guy who just simply won the primary in a municipal election. And the other thing folks need to understand, the reputation of New York City is of a liberal bastion. And it's a city where there's a 6-1 Democratic registration advantage over Republicans. And yet this city that has a reputation of being a liberal bastion elected Rudy Giuliani twice and Mike Bloomberg 3 times, the first time as a Republican, the next 2 times as an independent. And so what I take from Mamdani's win, above all else, is that he went out there and he asked New Yorkers for their votes. He did not do a Rose Garden strategy. He asked people for their votes and he gave them something to vote for. And that's the thing that I think Democrats should emulate. Ask people for their votes.
David, what do you make of Mamdani's win and the response we've seen so far?
Yeah, people hate the establishment these days, and the Republicans have found a way to tap into that, and now Mamdani has found a way for Democrats. And so if moderate Democrats who don't think the party should go Democratic Socialist want to win, they should be as bold as he was, as much vision, as vibrant as he was. He ran a great campaign. And the problem with the more mainstream Democrats is they're looking old and tepid these days. So be more like Mamdani without the socialism.
David Brooks and Jonathan Capehart, great to see you both. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend.
You too, Amna. You too.
Thank you.